Good evening, CAM followers, and welcome to our live this evening with our guest Hannah, also known as the physio vet nurse on social media, which a few of you might know her through. This evening, our title is Senior Clinics, it's a title very close to my heart. I love it, and I know Hannah does too. So it's a very appropriate title for both of us to talk to you guys tonight. So before I let Hannah introduce herself, I'm just going to show you this video. So this is a video promoting our CAM member zone. So through our CAM member zone, there is bespoke content that's only available in there. So there's special downloads, there's videos from Hannah, there's videos from our advisors giving advice in their special fields. So that's really useful. There's also the previous Facebook Lives that have happened. So our Facebook Lives now go live for free for a week, and then they're put into our member zone. So if you wanted to rewatch things, it's a great place to go. There's also discount for our shop, which is also very handy if you're buying things through there. And it's only £25 a year. So it's definitely a well worth purchase. Yeah, perfect. So over to you, Hannah, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
So hi everybody, I'm Hannah. I qualified as a vet nurse way back in 2014 after working in a lovely little practice in Clapham. And then I went to Goddard Vet Group, and now I'm with Pennard Vets, and I've done head nursing, I've done a bit of locuming, I've done some night work, I've done, a bit of a squiggly career. But all the way when I was back in my first practice, I realised there was a real gap for physiotherapy. And I qualified as a physiotherapist in 2020 when I was 8 months pregnant with my son.
Wow.
Decided to do a practical exam when, carrying a small person. And I haven't really looked back since.
Amazing. And you also do amazing resources on your Instagram page and Facebook page as well.
I'm a bit obsessed.
Yes. Very useful stuff. So go over and give Hannah a share and follow her, because she's got some great stuff as well. So
kind.
We'll kick off this evening with just, Hannah, could you explain to us what are senior clinics? What do they entail?
Yeah, so our senior clinics are for any patient who is over the age of 7, basically. So from the age of 7, we class small animals as senior, which means that they actually spend more than half their lifetime as a mature class. And in that, we look at several different things. So how to feed them correctly, how to make sure they maintain their weight, diseases and conditions that come along with them being a senior, as well as looking after medications that they're having, any conditions that they have that are ongoing. And it's just a really nice time for the clients and the patients to have more time, really. I think often people feel that talking to their vet, they're a bit pushed for time, a bit like we kind of trained with doctors that we can only talk about one thing. And actually having the freedom of talking to a nurse for an hour all about your pet and every concern you might have is just delightful.
Definitely. I think it's also important, like as they get older, they do tend to need to come to the vet a bit more. So coming in and just chilling out in the consult room and having a nice time makes it a less stressful experience for them if they do need to come in for something.
Exactly. And those frequent visits allow us to pick up on the smaller changes that might be happening. So it means that we can prevent worse things happening. So we're not seeing them when their legs fallen off. We're seeing them when their toes sort of falling off instead of the whole leg. And that actually, I've done senior clinics hundreds of times, thousands of times over the years, and we've managed to catch things from the littlest detail. That's, someone said, oh, he was staring at the wall of a night time, and I went, oh, okay, does he do that often? And we sort of went from there. And that's a sign of them going slightly senile, but we were able to put them on medication and stop that before it was a really big problem. So I love it. come and tell me all about your pets.
Perfect. So if someone that's listening is thinking, oh, that actually sounds like a good idea, what benefits would it bring to the client?
Oh, absolutely huge benefits. So just having someone that you can talk to in the practice who knows your pet inside out, you build a rapport, and being able to call and go, oh, do you know what, he's doing it again, or you said about this, it's getting a little bit worse, without feeling like you're pressured for time, is a massive thing. And so many practices now, they do they've got pet health plans, which mean that you've got unlimited vet and nurse consults, so you can take up that time. Or even better, they've got virtual ways of talking to the practice, so you can just message in and go, oh, I want to speak to Hannah, just to say that this has come up again, shall I do anything about it? It's just peace of mind.
Yeah, definitely. And having a link within the practice that you can actually phone and have a chat to.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. So what is the first point of call for, if say I'm a client, I ring in, I say, please can I book my pet in for a senior clinic? What happens next?
So with our senior clinics, we have a really good senior pet health plan. So we have unlimited vet and nurse consults, but also our seniors get a yearly blood, urine, and blood pressure check.
Amazing.
Which means that we are looking at all their organ functions every single year, so that we can catch things before they're a problem. And within that also they get a consultation with a nurse where we talk about mobility, diet, weight, how they travel to the clinic, even because that needs to change as they get older, how they're doing with their walks, what things are like at home, so that they have a full hour of someone's time to sit there and talk about their pet, and then we can make a plan from there. Which I love. And it also spreads the cost. We've got that preventative in there, and we also do a 6-monthly health check. So if they've not come in because they've not been poorly, we just get them to pop in at 6 months, which is all included in the plan. And we check those things like weight, how they're doing, make sure they've got enough flea and worming treatment, just to make sure that everything's how we left it. It gives us a chance to monitor any issues, talk about medications that they're on. And to be honest, this is a nurse's superpower in my realm, is how much knowledge nurses have about senior pets.
And use them. That's what they're there for.
Oh yeah, I mean, literally, I know some nurses consults aren't their thing, but they have done so much learning around it, that they are the best placed people to do it.
Definitely. And I think also to point out, everyone's a bit tight on money at the moment. Either, like you said, in your pet health plan, the senior clinics are included, but in my practice, we have like a discounted rate, so you pay a bulk thing, and it includes the blood test, the blood pressure monitoring, etc. So it sometimes works out cheaper than actually going to see your vet first of all.
Yeah, exactly. And it spreads that cost. It gives you peace of mind. It means you can come in as much as you like without worrying about it. And you've got a point of call to ask questions and not feel like you've got to pay for it.
And no question is stupid. Just ask it.
The littlest piece of information can give us a key into what's going on.
Definitely.
And I also like, with my seniors, to do a pre-appointment questionnaire. So we send a little questionnaire out, and it's just a bit of an opportunity to learn more. And there's questions in it that people might go, it's not really important. But actually, something I've discovered is people are not aware of the signs of pain until it's a big problem.
Definitely.
So we're missing those small things. So licking the back of their paws, suddenly not really going up the stairs, being hesitant to jump out of the car, asking all about those small signs of pain, or even just changing appetite. That gives us an opportunity to sort of ask those smaller questions without feeling the need to take up any time. and then we get the idea when they come in sort of what's going on, so we can talk about it, get it diagnosed, get the patient on the medication they need to have, and have a result quite quickly.
Yeah.
So I love them.
And what would, if a nurse is listening or a vet is listening and thinking, oh, that actually sounds like a good idea, I'd like to set up senior clinics within my practice, what are let's do 5 top questions that you think are the most useful to have in your pre-appointment questionnaire?
So obviously you've got your health-based, so are they drinking or eating anymore? Because that's quite important to us to monitor kidneys. Has their appetite changed? Has their personality changed? Because we know that grumpy dogs are often painful dogs.
Yeah.
Do they still enjoy walks?
Yeah.
Again, signs of pain is what we're looking for there. And I'm just trying to think of a 5th one, because I asked loads of random questions. Probably, are they still able to go to the toilet?
Yeah.
In a happy way, because actually we know that dogs that are struggling with arthritis start to struggle to go to the loo as well.
Yeah. No, definitely. That's really interesting.
Oh, and my top one for cats, just a random one.
Yeah.
On cats, have they stopped grooming? Because basically we know that mats mean that they're painful or can't reach.
Yeah.
So it's always a big sign for me.
No, definitely. That's definitely a really good one. We've just had a question come in from Deb Scott saying, I would love something like this in my local vets, but how best to sell the idea to them other than tagging them in this live? What are the main benefits to the practice?
There's loads of benefits to the practice to having a senior clinic running. So the main thing is it's actually quite a steady income stream, because it means that we have got patients receiving regular treatment, which is really important for them. The other benefits to the practice is it's empowering their nurses to use their knowledge. It's client loyalty, because people like to come back to see the same person. It's also a more holistic way of treating. So I always say things like holistic, and people think I mean like, crystals and spells and stuff, but that's not what I mean. What I mean is we're talking about looking at the whole patient and everything that's going on with them, instead of focusing on one problem.
Yeah. No, definitely. Perfect. So as the client comes into the room with you, what are you looking at? What are you assessing? Are there things that the client can do when they're in the room to help you?
So I like to do one thing before they come in the room.
Yeah.
I like to film them in slow motion on my phone, or a tablet, depends. I do a slow motion film and I do a real-time film, and then once they've come into the room, I like to take a picture of them standing.
Yeah.
And these are all things that we put on their record. And for me, it's just so that I've got a record of what their mobility is like at the time. It also means I like a slow motion film, because I can see, are they dragging any toes?
Yeah.
Are they twisting any limbs? Are they holding their tail to one side? Because it's all in a slower motion, I can break those things down. Equally, having a video doesn't matter if you watch it 20 times, but if you ask that poor dog to walk 20 times, it's difficult for them. And the other thing I like to do is talk to them about, are they on any medication? So we do, what medication are they on? Are they eating and drinking? Are they weeing more than normal? What are their poos like? How are they on walks? I mean, I could go on forever. But one of my biggest things is asking owners, what changes have they made at home for their senior dog?
Yeah.
Because it's really interesting. I was talking to Evie before this live. Actually, I have a lovely patient who's got bilateral arthritis in both of her wrists, and her lovely mum has done so much to help her, including putting mats down and raising her food bowls. And while I was there the other day, I noticed that her water bowl was on the floor. And I said, oh, is there a reason her water bowl's on the floor and not raised up? And she went, oh, yeah, no one told me to raise her water bowl. So it was just making sure that we ticked all of those boxes, making sure that they were the right things, and that she had, all the adaptations in the house that she needed. Because I always think of patients with arthritis like elderly people. So we need to change things in the home to make it more adaptable for them to use. And I think the biggest thing is that arthritis is actually a condition that is seen in old age. It's not caused by old age.
Yeah.
So we need to make those adaptations as and when we see those signs.
Definitely. That's a CAM tool that's really useful for that, and I use it a lot in my senior clinics. Is that it's my home to tool,
Right.
which is quite useful for just going through the different things and making sure that you don't forget anything. Because I mean, it's easy for us to forget things as well.
Oh, completely. I mean, actually, the rise of virtual appointments for us during COVID were really big, especially from a mobility point of view, because I used to get people to give me a tour of their house.
Yes, yeah,
So that we could go, oh, you know, those stairs, does he go up those stairs, or does he lay on that floor, or which part here, oh, is that the sofa he goes on, should we put some steps there, or, you know, just it meant that I could see people's actual homes and help them on a more personal level.
Yeah, I think as well when you come in with any consult, but also with senior clinics, especially because it's so intense, you're learning so much. To listen to us go, okay, you need to raise this, you need to put a mat here, this needs to change, and then they come out and they remember 3 things of the 20 we've said.
Exactly.
So yeah, putting it across in a way that everyone can remember is fab.
Yeah. And I also like to do so I sent an email after each senior clinic, just sort of saying, here's all the things we discussed, because actually it's a lot of information. And practices can really benefit from getting a template on their practice management system. So we created one for our senior clinics just to make sure we asked all the right questions. We checked all the right points. So we did a nose to tail check, we did a body condition score, and that we asked about home adaptations, etc. And then I would put plan on the bottom. And then I would have, you know, diet, pain relief, etc. to kind of go, these are the things that we changed, or this stayed the same. And I would just email that over, which meant that everybody was up to date, and you left and went, oh, what did she say? And then you go, oh yeah, I've got the email, it's fine.
Yeah, perfect. I've just written that down myself because that's a really good idea and I really like that.
It's really helpful.
I've stolen one.
And the other thing I think is making it personal, because so many of us have left practice, and you know, we're trying to be helpful, and people have created these resources for us, but because they're not individualized to our patient, there are times that we go, you've given me a whole booklet, I'm not going to read that.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
So as a physio, I like to create a personal plan, and I like to put my pet's name on the front and go, you know, this is Barney's exact plan, and then explain what's going on with him, and it's all very personal. And I think actually, you know, we're talking about 5 pages instead of 25 pages.
Yeah, no, definitely. What other things?
You've written that down too, haven't you?
No. You're just going to see me throughout. Stolen that idea. I think to get the audience involved, if anyone can think of any questions either that they use in their actual senior clinic questionnaires, or the owners think actually I would benefit from someone asking me that question, they can just pop it in. I think it's really good to share, and like I'm stealing Hannah's ideas and we can all help each other because we do this thing to help educate everyone and share ideas. So definitely do that.
And I'm gonna go on with, I've got some of my questions actually written down. So one of the questions I like to ask is the patient on any pain relief? How often they have it? Whether they're good at taking it? Whether you're good at remembering to give it?
Yes.
Because these are all questions that you don't always remember. Now, I've discovered recently that Apple do a medication reminder on their health app.
Oh, amazing.
So you can put in the name of the medication. So when my dog needs it, I put it in, and it gives me a reminder every morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I go, oh yeah, and then you can tick that it's taken off your phone. So that's always handy. Then I also ask about how they travel to the practice. Because for example, if your dog's always jumped into the car and now they're starting to struggle, I like to talk to people about training their dog to use a ramp.
Yeah.
So often what happens, and I've been there, I've done it with my older dog before I did all of my physio training.
Yeah.
I got a ramp and I went, right, up you go. And she went, never seen a ramp before, not using a ramp.
What are you talking about, Mum?
So actually one of the best ways to teach them is to lay it completely flat on the floor first and do a little trail of treats all the way along it.
Yeah.
And then you start slowly lifting the end, and then you put more treats along, and then you get a little bit higher and higher and higher until you're eventually in the boot of the car. And it's just taking that time. It's like any training, but it's just hard when you want to help them, and also particularly our bigger dogs, because they're quite heavy to lift into the car. And I'm a big fan of teaching puppies to use the ramp, so that by the time they are older and find it harder, that actually you've already done that training and you haven't got to worry about it.
No, definitely. That's a really useful point.
Particularly for Labradors with wobbly elbows.
Yeah. I think anything, especially if they're predisposed to joint disease, or that, or they're born with a dysplasia, then definitely keep them using the ramp. And
and also it's more likely to prevent joint injury as well. So actually what we're doing in their younger life will help them in later life, because as we know, arthritis isn't caused by old age, we just happen to see it then. So those little changes. And then the other one I've got is about walk length and frequency. How long is your dog walking for? Are they enjoying their walk? Do they get halfway around and then start lagging behind? Are they having time to sniff? Are they interacting with other dogs? Are they on a harness or a collar? So I ask loads of these questions because they're all to do with their mobility. And I mean, I'm sure we've all seen it. We've seen someone who's in a rush, they're trying to get to work, and the dog's harness is up round its ears like this because they're steaming ahead, and the dog's kind of like, oh, I'm not really there yet. And what happens is, while our dogs are young and healthy, we go around the block every morning, but actually there's a point that comes that maybe the block is too far. But because we're so used to that routine, we carry on, and we fail to notice that they're not actually keeping up with us anymore. And that's a big marker for me.
I think the most challenging part of like senior clinics for me is retraining the owner. That's the thing that is probably the hardest, because of things like the walks and things like that. But they're like, oh no, but we always walk to the turnaround spot and come back. Like that's our walk. And the amount of times I said to people, it doesn't matter if you literally walk out your front door, can do 2 minutes and then walk back, because that's all they enjoy now. That's fine.
And the more sniffs you put in, the more interesting it is to them anyway. So for example, my dog's waiting to have a TPLO op, or a totally pointless leg operation. I shouldn't joke about that. But she's been incredibly bored, so we've been putting puzzles and different things to sniff. So I mean, we've bought things like pumpkins and strawberries for her to have a sniff of, and just give her lots of different things to take her mind in. She's even had a sling so that she can go a bit further. And we've been looking at dog tactical harnesses so that she can still go on walks but not walk. She's only 10 kilos, so it's not too bad.
She's not 50.
But that brain training and time to sniff where other dogs have been, that's actually more beneficial to them, especially when their body's not able to go as far. And I think you're right, it's retraining ourselves. And as an owner, I've totally been in denial about my dog's age. Completely been in denial, because I don't want to think of them getting older or sicker or anything. And actually the dog we have at the minute is the spare, as we call her, because I got so upset when my dog had to have her first senior blood test that I was like, she's gonna die. I'm never gonna have another dog. And my mum was like, just get another dog now.
Don't be so dramatic.
Exactly.
No, I'm exactly the same. It is scary, and everyone's like, but they're only 7, they're not senior. But it's better to start doing bits with them then.
Yeah, and the biggest difference as well that makes to them is actually maintaining a healthy weight throughout their life.
Yeah.
So we know with ourselves, when we lose weight, we get more energy, our joints don't feel as sore, you know, we've got a bit more life about us. And actually it's exactly the same for our pets.
Yeah.
And if anything, it's probably easier to maintain their weight than to maintain ours, because we control it for them. No one's controlling mine. I'm an adult, I'm in charge of mine.
Yeah, exactly.
And it makes a huge difference to them. And I always talk about diet as well, because of you know, making sure we're getting the right nutrition in to support their body, making sure if they have supplements that they're giving them what they need, to make sure we've got the nutrients to repair if they've got any injury. So diet is incredibly important. And I know lots of people feel that vets always recommend certain brands, but actually that's because they are a sealed formula. So we know everything that's within that bag. Not to only to mention as well that there have been hundreds of studies on this food and the results that they achieve. So we have full belief and proof of what they do.
Yeah.
So it's not that we have any bias per se. We look at the evidence, and we've got evidence, and we read that.
No, definitely. I've massive example of that. 2 of my dogs, one of them will eat a good branded food and is like slim, nice, her coat is beautiful. The other one is like, I'm not eating that. It smells like salad and I want to eat McDonald's because he's a rescue dog and that's what he used to eat. So and you
Exactly,
can
yeah.
tell the difference. They're a similar age, but you can tell the difference in what they're like, in their coat and everything.
Yeah, and I think feeding's actually a really big thing as an owner, because it's a way that we say that we care.
Yeah.
So, you know, if they're enjoying the food that we've given them, it's the same with people. You know, once you've made someone a meal and they're eating away and you think, oh, great, you know, they really like it.
Yeah.
But actually, we're sort of doing them a harm, and we're killing with kindness.
Yeah.
And like, I think nurse clinics can really, really support people through that process. And to have someone actually pat you on the back and go, I know he's looked at you 45 times for a bonio this week, and you said no every single time. I'm so proud of you. That is just what needs to go out there.
No, definitely. And I think weight loss is probably the biggest, like what I've seen, the most rewarding thing is when they come in, they're like, we've made it, they've lost 15 kilograms and I've literally got a new dog, thank you so much. I don't know why I didn't do that in the first place. Like, and yeah, it's really rewarding for both us and the owner.
And it's just seeing them happy.
Yeah.
It's so lovely to see the dogs come in, because they're like, oh, look at me, I'm a skinny mini. I've got all this energy.
No,
obviously that was a Labrador.
Yeah, obviously I got that.
So yeah, no, I'm really passionate, and this is what I mean about looking at everything.
Yeah.
So we're encompassing everything that goes on in that pet's life, instead of just going, right, we've sorted that, tick, done.
Yeah, no, definitely. We've got another really good question from Deb. Deb's on fire this evening.
She is.
Saying, is there the opportunity to discuss end-of-life care options at your clinics? Do some people find it helpful to have the information before they need it, or is it too upsetting a topic to bring up? I think that's
so. We are incredibly lucky. We have an end-of-life team.
Wow.
So we have a vet, a nurse, and a client care advisor who are all incredibly passionate about helping people through that end-of-life sort of stage. The other thing we've done is we've all done CPD with a company called Compassion Understood, which is a company that talks about pet bereavement and how to lessen distress at that time. And we don't bring it up miles before, but often I do talk about it in a nurse clinic and sort of say these are the sorts of things that we look for at the time, and it's really about their quality of life and what you define that as. So many people go to me the morning he's not eating, that's it. And that is something that they feel really strongly is their dog's quality of life. But I know for my dad, for example, typical farmer, had a little Jack Russell that ran around everywhere with him. And she looked at his tractor one day and just went, oh, I don't even want to go.
Yeah.
And he went, no, that's it.
Yeah.
Because that was something she loved. So
Yeah.
the day that she didn't want to,
then you just knew.
Yeah, and I think sometimes having that line in your mind can be really helpful as an owner, because you do feel guilty and you do beat yourself up about things.
Yeah.
And I also think for as a mum, having a small person that I can prepare them for that day coming in a way of, oh, you know, he's getting older now, and when he's not doing this, I think that's when we're going to have to say goodbye. And you know, it's a preparation for everybody instead of it being a sudden surprise.
Definitely. And I think I had a client just yesterday that came in, and I was just on reception, and she came out and said, look, my dog's like 12 now and he's not doing so well, and I just wanted to come in and see what my options are so that I don't have to think about it on the day. I know it's all in place and I just come in and it happens. And I think, I mean, everyone's different, but I think that's a really good way to know what your practice provides, so that it's not a shock when you go in, or how much it's roughly going to cost. All those things are things that are just to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. And knowing what cremation options there are, or what options you have at that point, because that's all quite emotional too.
Yeah.
And I've even known some clients who have said that they will be so upset at the time that they've already chosen their caskets and everything like that weeks before, and gone, when we come in, can you just do this?
Yeah.
And it's actually made it a really smooth, really nice transition for them.
Yeah, no, definitely.
As nice as it can be.
Yeah. And I think also that is a benefit to the senior clinics, as in, if you've been coming in since the dog is 7 and you're now at the stage where your dog's 14 and you think it is coming to the end, and all you want to do is just go into your practice and have a comforting face, that's someone that you've built a rapport with, like you said, and then you're able to go in and go, look, Hannah, I just need to have a chat with you about what happens.
Yeah, exactly. And also, you've got someone in the practice who knows your dog, who knows you, who knows your dog, and they can sort of go, this is getting a bit worse, isn't it? And, you know, what point do you want to think about that? And I think actually knowing someone personally and having that bond makes you sort of feel that you can have those conversations that you're not sure about.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I've just seen a brilliant question come in.
That was a very good question. This one here, I don't think we have vet nurses here in Brighton that set up clinics like this. If I'm wrong, please correct me. I think probably best to contact your own surgery and give them a ring. It might be something that they just haven't advertised that well, or something that they haven't even thought about. So it might be worth just ringing them and saying, you're just checking in to see if they offer this.
Yeah, sure.
This is perfect for you, Hannah. You're never going to stop talking now.
I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. This is one of my really, really big loves. And I even have a section on my notes to talk about it. So I'm really glad someone asked. But yes, absolutely you can. There are lots of ways in which owners can provide physiotherapy at home. And some of them are small changes that make big differences. So we were talking about adaptations to the home. So that is making sure that slippery floors are covered up with mats, ensuring your dog can't go upstairs or down big drops, giving them orthopedic beds to make sure that they're comfortable, and making sure food bowls and water bowls are raised. So those are all everyday things that make a big difference to your dog. In terms of physical manual therapy, I have a well, I call it a massage map. It's a way to use a grooming brush, a rubber grooming brush, to massage your pet at home. So they're all nice. It shows you how to do all the movements with the brush. So there's one that you can get called a Zoom Groom, and it's got nice long rubbery fingers, and that will just help improve the circulation, make sure your pet's comfortable. The other thing I talk to owners about a lot, so we know that our patients who are uncomfortable tend to like to lay down a lot. that's absolutely fine, but we almost need to keep a bit of a time limit on them and make sure they are getting up and moving regularly. Because what happens is, it's, for example, we lay on one leg for a long time, and then we go to get up and go, it's gone to sleep, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So I tend to do every 2 to 4 hours, but I understand when people are at work, that's difficult. So just when they're present, as much as they can sort of do that hourly check-in would be amazing. The other thing I like to teach owners about is heat therapy.
Nice. Yeah.
So heat therapy, it's nice, it's easy, it's cheap. So they're all a winner for me. There's no reason why anybody can't do it. So with arthritis and joint disease, and actually just a lot of mobility issues we see with the older patients, we're talking about a chronic condition. So cold therapy won't work. Cold therapy is good for 24 hours after injury. And that's really to stem bruising and to reduce inflammation. So when we're talking chronic injuries, we want to use heat therapy. 10 minutes every 4 hours with a hot water bottle or a wheat bag. Just make sure you test it on your hands first. So I tend to go with, if I can't hold it for a minute, it's too hot to put on the dog. And basically what the heat therapy does is it thins the joint fluid, it increases inflammation, it provides a low level pain relief, and it makes it easier for the body to move. So I like to ask people to do this, if possible, before they walk their dog. Now there's two flip sides on this, which is when it's very hot outside, like it is at the moment. Well, it's sort of dulled off today, but when the outside temperature is high enough, it provides the same effects as heat therapy to our older patients. Now, the problem with that is they've been given sort of a pain relief and a joint thinner all over, and they feel fabulous. And then they overexert themselves, and then they have heat stroke, and they're really sore the next day. So it's really important that during a heat wave, we are really careful about walking our older patients. It's one of the things where I'm like, no. The other types of physiotherapy that you can do at home are red light therapy. So there are lots of people that do this with do sell units, and they're a couple of £100. And red light therapy doesn't necessarily heat the tissue, but it sends infrared light through and encourages the cells to get excited and repair. So it's something that I really love, and I think you can use it on anywhere in the body, obviously apart from eyes.
Not ideal.
Not eyes, but they're really good units. I love them, and the effects last for 24 to 48 hours, which means that you can do it regularly. It helps sort of the elasticity in the skin as well, and it's just a really nice bonding time for you and your dog.
No, definitely. And I think that's something we almost lose as they get older, because they're not maybe playing as much, they're not coming with you everywhere because they don't want to, and things like that. So I think any way that you can bond with them differently, which is good for them as they get older, is great.
And I'm always really careful with my senior patients and massage, or you get lots of people get really excited about range of motion. People love range of motion, but my issue with that and arthritis is we have bony change. If we're then wrenching that joint through that bony change, that's actually going to be more painful for that patient. So it's about using the tools in a correct way and making sure you've got the information that is safe to do, because the last thing I ever want to do is cause any pain. So I tend to go with, I like to improve function and do no harm.
No, that's a very good point. Very good point.
Yeah.
We've got one from Elaine here saying, great idea about the training ramp from a puppy. Denver, I'm guessing border collie, you stood and I thought he would just go up the ramp into the car thinking it was a dog walk, but he refused. He can now get in on his own again, which saves my back as he weighs 24 kilograms.
Exactly, yeah, and this is one of my things. I've seen so many people struggling and even putting the dog's paws right up on the boot of the car and kind of going, right, I'm going to lift your bum now. And you know, they're heavy dogs,
Yeah,
and it's not worth it. It's not worth injuring yourself. It's
no,
not worth possibly injuring them. Um, you know, you'd feel awful if they yelped while you were trying to lift them. And actually, we can just do that little bit of training while they're a puppy, and save ourselves
yeah,
all a big problem.
definitely, definitely. And I think also training when they're a puppy is letting you touch all down their leg and their paws and everything, so that if you do need to do massage or trimming their nails, things like that, as they get older, then
Oh
that's
yeah, I meant to talk about nails as well.
do it.
Yeah, I am a very passionate lady about watching how nails are shaped. This sounds incredibly weird, but we know that long nails put more pressure on the toes. As they hit the floor, they're bending the knuckles of the toes like this. And then what tends to happen is our nails start pushing and growing in odd directions. Now, particularly for our patients with black nails, because we want to make sure that the quicks aren't getting too long and they're in a controlled way. We also tend to forget that these dogs are doing less exercise. So we do need to make sure that what they're putting on the floor is comfortable. So I always talk to people about putting their orthotics on.
Yeah. Oh.
So, you know, I'm going to check their feet because I want to check their orthotics are fine. And trimming hair is particularly important as well, especially on slippery
Yeah.
surfaces. So our very fluffy feeted breeds, we just want to make sure that they're not getting too fluffy. And also if our pets are licking their feet a lot, and particularly if they've got hairy feet, you can get mats inside the paws, which get really uncomfortable as well. So there's quite a lot to look at in terms of foot care.
Definitely, feet are very important.
Just like older people go to the chiropodist, the dog's got
Exactly.
to come for a pedicure.
I always say to people, I'm like, right, you have to imagine your dog is your 100-year-old grand that's just come out of hospital. They're a little bit doddery, and you just got to help them.
Exactly. And I also like to look at what way the nails have spread. So, for example, are they spreading more on the outside than the inside, which tells me that they're putting more pressure on the inside. And looking at what way they wear their feet can actually give us an indication that, you know, the right leg is more painful than the left leg, or they're bearing more weight on this one than that one. So we've not got to always have the fanciest equipment in the world. We've not all got to have a gait analysis mat.
No,
We can look at the evidence that's in front of us.
yeah, no, definitely, definitely. Are there any adaptations that you make in the practice to make it more suitable for your senior patients or in your consulting?
So I would love, this is my whole hashtag mobility matters. Oh wait, hang on, it's in it hashtag. Basically, I would love every practice to have a mobility champion, to have someone who plans the patient's routes through the practice and ensures that they are mobility friendly. So, for example, one of the practices that I work in has 2 levels of stairs before you're in the hospital. It's really unfortunate. It's an older building, but I look at it and think, oh, that's a doddery patient. How are they going to get up there? That's going to be really uncomfortable. So we have done a back way that is all ramps.
Amazing.
So it means that our patients can get to the hospital in a manner that they're not struggling with stairs, and you know, it's quite uncomfortable for them. Then I'm looking at kennels. So it's something we tend to focus on, obviously, when they're staying with us. So they come in for the day, for example, for their blood test, urine test, things like that. And we go, okay, you're going to chill out in a kennel for a bit and make us some urine. That would be great. But they're in there, not moving around.
Yeah.
So we need to be, like we are at home, aware of how often they're getting out, moving around, making sure they're in a kennel that they're big enough to stand up in, turn around, lay down, etc. Have a thick ortho bed if possible. And I tend to go, you're over 7, you're getting an ortho bed.
Yeah.
I don't even think about it. So I just assume that every patient over the age of 7 has some sort of joint discomfort. And I think, well, if you don't, you've had a cushy day anyway. And raising food and water bowls in hospital. is one of the biggest things that we don't tend to think about. And actually, you can get lots that actually screw onto the bars.
Yes.
So they're not taking up floor space, but they can stay on the bars. And I tend to go with the point of the shoulder. So my poor nurses, they see me going, right, bar, shoulder, bar. Okay. Just so that it means that they've not got a hard time stretching down, because we forget how much weight they put on their front end. With cats, I like to build all the bedding up so it's above the litter tray, so they can step down into it and back up again, or even actually dispense with a litter tray at all, and use a sort of folded up Inco pad with some cat litter in, so that they can sort of just wander over and wander back. Let me just hang on, I've got to turn my notes over.
That's all right.
Taking bloods and placing IVs is a big one for me. So talking about their positioning, talking about handling, and actually in some dogs, if they're really uncomfortable, and especially elbows and carcasses, why not use a saphenous vein? Or even an accessory vein, so they've not got to have their whole leg poked out. Taking blood, again, it's just about moving slowly, making sure they're on a mat so that they can't slip, or even asking a third person to help and just hold their paws for them and provide them with some stability. And making sure that you've got routes through the practice that avoid slippery floors if you can, because unfortunately all our surfaces, though they're really nice and clean, they're slippery.
No, definitely.
So it's just taking that time to think about that.
Yeah. Another thing that we do in our practice, we have yoga mats that are all in the waiting room. So if they're sat there waiting, they've got the yoga mats there that they can sit on, so that when they go to get up, they're not slipping around.
Beautiful. Are they blue ones?
They're grey, actually.
Oh, okay. I'm just thinking, I love a bit of fear-free, so I'm like, blue's the most relaxing colour.
That is definitely something to think about, though. But things like that are, everyone can take a yoga mat into their practice. So if your practice doesn't provide yoga mats, and your dog is sore, you're worried about them getting up, just roll it out and come in, roll it out, and you'll probably, other people will be like, what are they doing? But if you explain, they might actually think of it for their dog as well.
Or even a thick bath towel. It can just give them the sort of friction that they need to be able to get up.
Definitely.
Bless them.
You've got a fan here, Hannah.
I bet that's Beth. My lovely wing lady, who was actually going to join me tonight, but unfortunately she's working till late. But she's the best, and she normally does a lot of talking about senior clinics for me. I just come in and do the physio bit, and she's really the star behind it all.
It's fab to do teamwork.
Would you like me to answer the one about the spine?
Yes, go for it. Pop it up. There we
go. I love talking about clicky joints. Because we always think that they're a sign of release or a sign of concern. When we hear an audible click from a joint, it's just a build-up of air in the joint. And then the click is basically the bubble popping. So yeah, it sounds horrendous. I quite like the noise because I'm like, oh, it's free, it's got rid of that. But it just means that the nutrients in there are producing these oxygen bubbles, and it makes a sound. It's not a problem.
It does sound horrible, though.
It does sound horrible, and some of us make more than others. It's just, it's not a known reason why. But I always think they must feel better, because how often have I gone, God, I wish my back would crack. And then and then it goes and you're like, oh, and it's because you've suddenly then got more space within that joint than you had before.
Yeah, no, definitely. Something I've got written down is 5 top tips for nurses, and then 5 top tips for owners for senior clinics.
Oh, I should have prepped these. That's okay. 5 top tips for nurses: always film. Always film a patient, and always take a photo of them, because actually you monitor how their stance has changed, how much more grey they've got, how much weight they've put on, how much their posture's changed. number 2, which I didn't talk about. Oh, I was naughty. So with our older patients, we know that they tend to lose muscle really quickly. And a paper has recently come out that said that most animal species lose muscle within 5 days of inexercise. That's it, 5 days. So, and we know that our senior patients in particular are prone to sarcopenia, which is muscle loss over the hindquarters. So muscle score, check their butt.
Yeah.
If they've got a nice meaty rear end, then I'm not worried, but it's something I always watch for, especially as soon as their hips start getting sore, they tend to lose from there. 4 would be weight's the way to win.
Yeah.
Monitor the weight and everything else goes with it. And then 5 would be to ask about home and actually talk about those home adaptations, and even get clients to bring in photos of the dog's area of the house to help you make changes, because seeing as much as you can really does help.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So yeah, and then for pet owners, it would be train on the ramp as soon as you can. Keep it flat. Get your cheese and your treats out. Get them walking along it on the flat. It would be making those home adaptations, especially raising their bowls, because when they raise their bowls, they're tipping so much onto their front end. So dogs are actually 60-40 anyway.
Yeah.
When they're eating, we're putting even more effort on that front end, and that's leading us to more problems.
Yeah.
Paying attention to their walks. Are they sniffing loads? Are they getting a chance to walk at their pace? The dog's walk is for them, it's not for us.
Yeah.
Even though we like our route, it's for them, it's their time. And also just don't think that any change isn't worth mentioning.
Yeah.
Sometimes the smallest thing can make such a difference, and it can give us a hot tip to something that's going on.
Yeah.
So don't ever feel that you can't have the time or can't mention something.
Yeah.
And I think the last one would be find a nurse in the practice and make them your person.
Definitely. They're very good tips. Very good tips. I think especially, I think people sometimes feel a little bit embarrassed. They're like, oh, I just feel a bit silly, like saying this because it's such a small thing, but it's not. Nothing is small. And it's surprising some of the things that come out that are small tend to be the things that you're like, I think we could be looking at X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. You've told me that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
How many times has this happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like a small thing to you, or you think it might be silly, but actually it isn't. And that's been really, really helpful. I've even had a client go, I thought I felt a bit of a weird lump. And we went in and investigated, and deep in the muscle, there was in fact a tumour growing in the muscle, which we managed to remove. And I said, we wouldn't have seen that or felt that had you not come in and gone, I was rubbing her the other night and it's around here. And that was massively helpful.
Yeah, no, definitely. And at the end of the day, the owners are with them all the time. You guys know them a lot more than we do. We only
Absolutely.
for a small portion of time. So write everything down, complete your pre-assessment questionnaires, and find your nurse.
And don't be afraid to take up someone's time for your animal's welfare.
That's what we're there for.
And we love it.
Yeah, we do. Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Hannah, for your time this evening.
You're very welcome.
Very, very precious, and you're very busy, but thank you. I've definitely learned a lot, and I hope you guys have all found it useful.
Good.
Yeah. So thank you, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. We'll go live again next week. Again, I think it's Hannah hosting next week. Yeah. So I hope you all have a good week, and we will catch up soon.
Woo! Bye, guys.